You sure that this is the right letter? The man behind the desk sighed impatiently. Yes, I'm sure. It's a letter from Mr. Kaiser to his sister, written on March 21st, 1948. Well, alright then. Any other documents for me to look at? The man behind the desk rummaged through the files in front of him, muttering to himself. He finally looked up. Nothing else. That's all that his sister left in my possessions, and the instructions were to give it to his closest kin. The woman standing in front of the desk sighed. She was a slender figure, with a pale face and unkempt hair. Thank you, she said, taking the letter and slipping it into her bag. With a brisk nod, she turned and headed out of the office. Arriving home several hours later, the woman sat down in her chair and opened the letter. A piece of her family's history. This was actually exciting, and she couldn't help but smile. She had hoped that there was some sort of money left, some sort of will, perhaps. But this document would have to do. And why not look on the positive side of life, at least sometimes? She unfolded the paper. The words on the page were written shakily, as if by a man in a hurry. The paper was tattered and beaten, showing signs of age and wear, but it was still legible. And so the woman settled deeper into her chair and began to read. My dear sister, know that I love you. Tell Mom and Pa I love them. The next mission I'm going on will take place in exactly 7.5 hours, and I don't believe I'll make it out of there. I've asked Henderson. You remember Henderson, don't you? The tall, rather handsome fellow you used to have a crush on in middle school, to deliver this to you. He agreed, and I expect it will be in your hands within the next few months. Henderson isn't going on this mission. It's funny how life works. When I started this gig in the Arctic, I didn't think I'd be doing this sort of thing. It seemed like an easy enough job. You remember. I brought the paper home one day, my hands pointed eagerly at the listings. Specialists needed for record keeping and exploration in the frigid Arctic. I could hardly contain my excitement. It was just the sort of job I always wanted, and this gig paid easy cash. I was wrong, and I'm sorry I up and left you and all like that. I guess this is just my way of saying goodbye and telling you what happened to me. My guilt's overwhelming. I should have said goodbye. I'm sorry. I need to tell you what we found down here in the Arctic and the things that are happening here. Pray for my soul if you believe in any higher power. When I first arrived, there wasn't much of anything to be seen. The snow and the ice were still thick, and the air was cold. The boat captain was kind enough, and I had a more prestigious position than a lot of the other hands on deck. They seemed to know what I was there for, and they muttered to each other in some sort of language I couldn't right make out. Anyway, I got on well enough. 3 square meals a day, enough paid to buy the boat we were on and everything else. The issue came during my first mission. I received a briefing about 2 days before, so I had plenty of time to prepare. It was that briefing that really got me worried, though. Apparently, we were going beneath the ice. I know it sounds crazy, but that's exactly what we did. On the day of my mission, I was instructed to be on deck 10 minutes before my departure. It was here I first saw the machine I would become accustomed to over the next few weeks. It was a submarine vehicle of the most advanced type, all a rustic sort of yellow. The vehicle was immensely fascinating. The submarine was designed to go beneath the Antarctic ice and explore what lay beneath it. It was built in a fascinating manner, with one large screw cap located on the top, where members of the crew could enter and exit. The submarine itself was spacious enough for the crew, with little room to spare. It had a powerful motor that allowed the vehicle to cut through ice, or even dig in it if necessary. The most interesting feature on the submarine was its advanced navigation system. There were several dials and monitors, which allowed the pilot to control both where the submarine was going and how deep it descended. It also had an advanced sonar system that could detect objects beneath the ice. The crew was made of 12 people, all of us specialists in one field or another. We were led by a captain, the man who was in charge of the whole expedition. You have to understand, this vehicle was cramped. We couldn't much move, and we were informed that we only had 2 hours of oxygen. If the ice reformed while we were at the bottom, we couldn't get up within the time frame, and we'd all die. Chills ran through my body when I heard this. I knew it wasn't going to happen, or it was unlikely, but still, it was harrowing in a way. And so we set off beneath the ice. The murky water splashed around our vessel as the boat lowered us into the depths. It was nothing like what you would imagine. And the water around us at first was murky, and you couldn't see through the darkness. Soon, our submarine dove deeper, and the only thing you could see was peering out the main hatch from where our captain navigated. The only thing we could see was darkness several yards in front of our vessel, where the dim lights shone. I don't know how he knew where to go, but he did. As we dove deeper, the submarine became colder. The chill permeated the air and made us shiver. "What are we looking for, Captain?" And one of the other men in the vehicle, a big man with an even bigger mustache, asked as he turned toward our leader. The captain didn't respond. He simply steered the vehicle deeper, till the pressure around us, the silence, and the cold, it all became almost unbearable. Suddenly, however, the vehicle slowed as a murky something came into view. It was an eerie feeling, that looming object above us. Squinting, I could barely make it out. Our vessel wafted even closer, however, and I could make out a gigantic arch above us. When you picture an arch, I could hardly expect it to be the size of that object. This behemoth spanned 3 yards from one side to the other, and it arched out of vision, the curvature barely visible. The captain cursed with excitement. "Finally, we're here, boys. I get to work collecting those samples." We put our suits on. They were thick and yellow suits. They were less of clothes and more shields in the shape of clothes, with large helmets and hoses that attached directly to the vessel. As we put on the suits, the 30-minute timer sounded. We had to be here for half an hour. We all shuffled into a very small hatch door that allowed access to the outside. Standing there, I spoke up. "All ready?" The cold water filled the small area as the exterior doors were open. The only feeling I could even fathom was cold, and the cold permeated my skin through the suit. Flipping on the headlamp my suit was fitted with, the other man and I slowly began to propel ourselves out of the boat. Navigating the murky water, I glanced upward. The spanning arch was made out of bricks of some kind, but not the size you'd think. And these bricks were massive, perhaps the size of the ones used in the Great Pyramids, perhaps bigger. Swimming closer, I ran my hand along the brick. It was covered in a soft settlement of dust and debris settlement, and several small plants, lichens, and the like. And I grabbed my toolkit and began to chip off samples. The first few times went well, but then I struck it ever so slightly too hard. Although I couldn't hear it, all sounds this deep underwater are muffled almost completely. A large chunk of the arch cracked and began to float downward. I cursed to myself and dodged to the side, pushing off the chunk of stone that fell past me. Looking down, I could see it float nearly into the depths, quickly becoming invisible in the darkness of the sea beneath. I shivered. The darkness was chilling and terrifying, and even above me there was no light. The only lights I could see were the ones off the ship and off the other men from my team. Something happened then that I'll never forget. I saw a faint, distant motion in the dark depths beneath me where the rock had fallen. Squinting, I stared downward, trying to make out what it was. Something was swimming upward, or at least it looked like it. It was large, and then, finally, When it was about 10 yards away from me and the others, I finally saw what it was. A gigantic hand, spanning several yards, reached upward from the depths of the sea. It was so large that each of the fingers were at least twice my height in length and double in width. I let out an involuntary curse and began to propel myself backwards, swimming as frantically as I could. I motioned toward the others. I waved, trying to get their attention, but they were so caught up in their job that nobody saw me. The hand was getting closer. It was reaching upward, each of the fingers covered in moss and other strange plants, dust forming around the hand from the motion. It looked unkempt, decrepit, and almost dead, but it was moving, and it was without question alive. Panicking now, my breath labored. I swam backwards, always keeping my eye on the hand, and suddenly it reached the first one of my teammates. Grabbing him, tearing his suit away from the ship, it pulled him into the darkness of the void. And this time my other teammates saw it. I could see the eyes of the closest one, pulls of pure terror that mirrored my own, and I saw him swimming toward me and the ship frantically. But the hand was already back. It grabbed his leg, tearing him from the ship. It was only a few feet away now, and with relief, I felt the thud of the ship on my back. Scrambling almost, I made my way into the chamber and pressed the button that allowed me to communicate with the captain. "There's something out here. There's a hand. Open the door." "Has your team retrieved the samples yet?" came the voice of the captain. "I don't know. Just open it. There's something out here with us. It took 2 of them." I screamed into the microphone as I stared out into the eerie pitch black. "We wait for samples." That was the only response he gave, till all the men were either in the ship or had been dragged deep into the abyss. 12 of us embarked on that first mission. 3, counting the captain, remained. We're heading out in a few hours to get the rest of the samples.